First Nephi is the first book in the Book of Mormon and tells of dreams, prophecies, records, visions, angels, and how to receive revelation. The Book of Mormon timeline follows both the Old and New Testaments. Lehi was probably born around 650 BC, and his world is in turmoil. The Assyrian Empire is declining, and Babylonian and Egyptian empires are fighting for control of the region. From 605 to 597 BC, 5 kings had ruled Jerusalem, the last being Zedekiah, put on the throne by the Babylonians. He unwisely supported Egypt, and Jerusalem was captured by Babylonians in 597 BC and destroyed 10 years later. Prophets like Jeremiah, Obadiah, and Habakkuk preached repentance to the people and warned them both spiritually and politically to not follow Babylon. Nephi introduced his family and said he was born of goodly parents, which could mean they were righteous, loving, or wealthy. They were like any family with imperfect people who had their own struggles in an imperfect world. His father Lehi was not only a prophet, but also a parent concerned for his family's welfare, along with Nephi's mother Sariah. Nephi had 3 brothers, Laman the oldest, then Lemuel, and Sam. And the Book of Mormon is the most family-oriented book in all the standard works, and especially relatable to parents. Lehi prayed unto the Lord with all his heart in behalf of his people, and had a vision where a pillar of fire appeared, and he saw and heard many things that made him quake and tremble exceedingly. He went home, fell on his bed, and had another vision, where he saw God surrounded by angels singing and praising him, and saw Jesus Christ and his 12 apostles. Lehi was given a book of the future and read that Jerusalem would be destroyed because of the people's wickedness. He told the people to repent or Jerusalem would be destroyed and that Jesus Christ would come. They were angry and tried to kill him, but the Lord protected him. His story is interesting. A prophet prays, has a vision, sees heavenly messengers, including Jesus Christ, receives a book, and is rejected by most people, which looks a lot like Joseph Smith's own life. The Lord was pleased with Lehi and told him in a dream one night to take his family and leave Jerusalem. Now, instead of trying to change a nation, he'd create one and raise up a righteous people to the Lord. They packed food in tents, left their house and riches, and traveled into the wilderness. They went south along the Red Sea coast for 200 miles, a 10 to 14-day journey to its northeast tip, then traveled 3 more days and stopped in a valley near a river, now out of reach of the Babylonian and Egyptian empires, or anyone in Jerusalem that sought his life, and they probably stayed here for several years. Lehi built a stone altar and offered thanks to the Lord for saving his family. The valley was by a river of water that Lehi named Laman, and encouraged his oldest son to be like, continually running into the fountain of all righteousness. He called the valley Lemuel, encouraging him to be like it, firm, steadfast, and immovable in keeping the Lord's commandments. But both Laman and Lemuel thought their father was foolish for leaving Jerusalem and their riches, and did not believe the city would be destroyed. Lehi admonished them with the Spirit, so that their frames did shake before him, confounding them, that they durst not utter against him. While his older brothers murmured, Nephi wanted to know what Lehi had seen and prayed, to know if it was right to leave Jerusalem and flee into the wilderness. He had great desires to know of the mysteries of God. Wherefore I did cry unto the Lord, and behold, he did visit me. He now knew his father's words were true, and did not rebel like his brothers. The Lord promised he'd be blessed because of his faith, and become a leader over his brothers. Nephi told him what Jesus had told him, and only his younger brother Sam believed. The Lord commanded Lehi in a dream to send his sons back to Jerusalem for the brass plates held by Laban. They knew this would be a difficult task, and everyone's faith was put to the test. The stakes were high, and the fate of an entire nation depended on it. Laman and Lemuel murmured and did not want to go, but Nephi had faith they could get the plates from Laban, and told his father, I will go and do the things which the Lord hath commanded. For I know that the Lord giveth no commandments unto the children of men, save he shall prepare a way for them, that they may accomplish the thing which he commandeth them. We learn from 1 Nephi chapter 3 verse 7 that God will not give us commandments we cannot keep, and he always provides a way. Lehi's sons will soon learn that this is not always easy, and God lets us fail at times so we can exercise our faith and trust in him. Nephi was inspired to write a detailed account how he obtained the brass plates. He was about 15 when they left Jerusalem, formed the large plates in 588 BC and the small plates 10 years later. So he was about 45 years old when he began 1st Nephi, with over 30 years to ponder what the Lord had done for his family and why. When the brothers arrived outside of Jerusalem, they cast lots to see who would approach Laban first. It fell to Laman, who went to Laban's house and asked for the plates. Laban called him a robber and threatened to kill him. Laman escaped and told his brothers what happened. "Well, we tried and failed. Now let's go home." But Nephi would not give up and persuaded them to continue their mission. They decided next to try trading their father's riches to bargain for the plates. Laban was a military leader with a local guard of about 50 men. He called Lehi's sons robbers, stole their property, and tried to have them killed. They had now failed twice, lost their riches, and nearly been killed by Laban's servants. They escaped and hid in a cave where Laman and Lemuel beat Nephi and Sam with a rod. An angel appeared and told them to stop, that Nephi would be their leader, and the Lord would deliver Laban to them. The angel's influence did not last very long, though, and Laman and Lemuel refused to try again to get the plates. Only Nephi trusted in the Lord to accomplish this seemingly impossible task. Laman, Lemuel, and Sam hid while Nephi crept into the dark city alone without a plan. He relied on his faith and willingness to obey the Lord, being led by the Spirit, not knowing beforehand the things which he should do. He found Laban lying drunk in the street, and was constrained by the Spirit to kill him. Nephi was abhorred by this command, and this go and do young man resisted. "Never at any time have I shed the blood of man," showing his respect for life and desire to keep the commandments. The Spirit spoke again, saying, "The Lord hath delivered him into thy hands." But Nephi still did not obey, and wanted to be absolutely sure that this is what the Lord wanted him to do. The Spirit prompted him a third time, saying, "The Lord slayeth the wicked to bring forth his righteous purposes. It is better that one man should perish than a nation should dwindle and perish in unbelief." Laban had been given 2 chances to give them the plates, and ignored the Lord's promptings. If he had remained alive, he or others may have followed and killed Lehi's family, and the Lord directed Nephi in a way that resulted in the least loss of life. Laban had falsely accused them twice of being robbers, stole their property, and tried to have them killed. This was a capital offense in Mosaic law, and Nephi may have been executing a judgment of death that Laban had brought upon himself. Nephi obeyed the Lord's will and killed Laban by cutting off his head with his own sword. He dressed in Laban's armor and went to the treasury and met a servant named Zoram, who thought that Nephi looked and sounded like Laban. Nephi asked Zoram to bring him the plates, which he did, and followed Nephi out of the city. Nephi's brothers saw him dressed like Laban from a distance and fled, thinking that he'd been killed. He called to them in his own voice, and they stopped. Now Zoram was afraid and tried to run away. But Nephi, a large man, stopped him and made an oath that if Zoram would go with them, they'd spare his life, and he'd be a free man. Zoram took courage from Nephi's words and swore an oath that he'd stay with them. There was probably then a lot of teaching going on as they traveled back with the plates. The brothers realized that only God's power could have delivered the plates to Nephi, but probably did not know why they were so important that it required Laban's life. Nephi knew that without the plates, his people would have dwindled in unbelief, which did happen to the Mulekites, who, without their spiritual records, denied their Creator and their language was corrupted. Also, the plates would have probably been destroyed in the upcoming Babylonian invasion if Laban had kept them. We now learn about Nephi's mother Sariah in chapter 5. She had not seen Lehi's vision, but willingly left her home and friends and took their children into a dangerous wilderness on an unknown journey. She's now had a month to adjust to her new home, and while waiting for her son's return, began to fear they had died. Now her devotion to Lehi and trust in his ability to receive revelation were put to the test. She complained against Lehi and called him a visionary man. He acknowledged her concerns and agreed that yes, he did see visions, but by following the Lord's command, they had been saved from destruction and their sons would safely return. When they did, her joy was full and she was comforted. Sariah shared her newly strengthened testimony and witnessed from the Lord that Lehi was a prophet. This was his will, and now she could continue their journey with greater faith. Lehi studied the brass plates and learned how valuable they were. They contained the books of Moses and records of prophecies down to Jeremiah, including prophets not in our current Bible, possibly from the northern tribes, and the commandments. Lehi prophesied that these go forth unto all nations and never perish or be dimmed by time. Nephi wrote a major Book of Mormon theme in 1 Nephi chapter 1 verse 20, also told by Moroni. I will show unto you that the tender mercies of the Lord are over all those whom he hath chosen, because of their faith, to make them mighty even unto the power of deliverance. And remember that this can be a deliverance over almost anything we want to overcome. And this is 1 Nephi chapters 1 through 5 in the Book of Mormon. Look for hidden images located in this video. You can support Ponderfun by visiting our Etsy site, ponderfun.com website, and our Facebook page to find more fun things to do. Please like and share these videos with anyone you think might enjoy them. Also, please subscribe to this Ponderfun YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching, and find some time this week to ponder.